In this video, I'll walk you through 4 practical examples using Qwen-3 Coder. These aren't generic coding problems. We'll tackle projects with clear, useful applications, from property investment, analytics, generative image apps, to web development and schema generation. The goal is to showcase how Qwen-3 can be more than a code auto-completion tool. It can help you build, reason, and prototype like a partner. Let's start with something that blends data science and decision-making: property investment analysis. Imagine you are a property investor or analyst in Melbourne. You want to compare the return on investment across several suburbs using public housing data. This is traditionally a job for spreadsheets and time-consuming scripts. But with Qwen-3 Coder, we can streamline it into a few structured prompts and snippets. We begin by asking Qwen-3, write a HTML script to compare rental yield and median price growth across 10 Melbourne suburbs. Use mock data and include a heat map. Qwen-3 responds with a full script using pandas and matplotlib. The mock data is well structured, typical for a high-performance code model. It includes suburb names, median house prices, weekly rent, and historical growth percentages. The model also calculates rental yields and then visualizes this as a heat map. We now modify the prompt slightly. Add a logic to highlight suburbs with yield greater than 4% and growth greater than 5% over 5 years. Qwen inserts conditional formatting logic directly into the heat map code. Within seconds, we now have a color-coded map that tells a clearer story. Now here is what's interesting. Qwen doesn't just generate code. It understands what we are making the comparison. It prioritizes readability, efficiency, and modularity. If you're someone who works with investment models or want to explain them to clients, this is a game changer. You get instant code that's not only runnable but explainable. Want to go deeper? Ask Qwen to export the results to Excel with conditional formatting applied in the spreadsheet. It delivers an updated script with formatting styles and export to Excel functionality. That level of integration used to take hours for beginners. Now it's minutes. This shows the real power of pairing domain knowledge, like property analytics, with an LLM like Qwen-3. You can test hypotheses, visualize patterns, and prepare investor-friendly outputs with minimal overhead. If you are managing portfolios or building an internal tool, this kind of workflow is not optional anymore. It's becoming the norm. Let's move to the second example now. Instead of analyzing numbers, let's build a generative image app. Think of it as a lightweight version of what tools like Midjourney or DALL-E do. But instead, we are making a front-end interface that takes a prompt and sends it to an API like a Stable Diffusion. We tell Qwen-3, build a basic HTML interface with a text input and a generate button. When clicked, call a generate image API endpoint and show the image on the page. Within moments, Qwen gives us a clean layout, HTML with bootstrap styling, a fetch call in JavaScript, and image rendering via DOM manipulation. The layout is mobile-friendly and usable out of the box. We go a step further. Add loading spinner, error handling, and a drop-down to choose from 3 prompt presets: fantasy landscape, architectural sketch, and futuristic city. Qwen updates the code elegantly, adds a drop-down, modifies JS to update prompts dynamically, and the quality of code here rivals junior front-end developers. Now say we want to link this interface to a real backend. We can use the Stability AI API or Hugging Faces interface endpoint. Ask Quen, modify code to send a post request to Stability's API with the prompt and show images on success. It adds headers, handles JSON parsing, and updates the DOM as needed. With an API key in place, this app works immediately. What you now have is a basic but fully functional image generation app, not a demo, not pseudocode, and it's a working prototype. Quen isn't guessing, it's building from real-world patterns. This democratizes app creation. It's exciting when distance between idea and output is this short. And this is exactly where LLMs will keep evolving. Not replacing creativity, but accelerating it. Coming up next, we'll explore how Qwen3 helps you build a full personal portfolio website with clean JavaScript components, and how it generates structured JSON artifacts for apps like learning tools or simulations. But before we continue, if this is the kind of real-world AI content that you find valuable, make sure you are subscribed and turn on notifications. We are only getting started. Let's move to a task almost everyone eventually faces, which is building a personal website. Maybe it's a portfolio, a resume, a landing page for a project, or even a profile to host your AI tools. While you could use platforms like Wix or Squarespace, they rarely give you the control or customization that hand-coded sites offer. So we'll use Qwen3 Coder to build a functional, responsive portfolio site from scratch using vanilla JavaScript and Tailwind CSS. We begin with a simple instruction. Generate an index.html file for a personal website. Include sections for About, Projects, Contact. Use Tailwind for styling. Qwen3 responds with a clean HTML structure, semantic tags, responsive layout, and Tailwind class names. The About section is structured with clear typography, the Project section uses a responsive grid, and the Contact section includes a styled form with email validation. Now we want some interactivity. We ask, add a JavaScript to animate scrolling between sections, and include a dark mode toggle button in the navigation bar. Immediately, Quen adds smooth scroll behavior with an event listener, includes a dark mode toggle using Tailwind's dark variant, and set up a local storage check so that user preferences are saved between sessions. They represent patterns you'd expect in professional work. Now let's push the prompt further. Write a script to dynamically populate the project section from a JSON file. Qwen3 provides a fetch-based JavaScript function that loads project.ts.json and appends each item into the DOM with Tailwind card styles. The JSON is structured with project name, description, text stack, and link. This separation of content from code is what makes sites maintainable. From a content strategy perspective, we are now thinking modularity. That's one of the real benefits of using a model like Qwen3 Coder. It scales the logic of development, not just the syntax. Let's go further. Many people want blogs on their site, so we try add a blog section, use JavaScript to load the 3 latest markdown posts from a folder, convert them to HTML, and display summaries with read more buttons. Quen suggests using the marked.js library to parse markdown. It adds lazy loading, builds a card layout with post excerpts, and creates links to full pages. This kind of dynamic content rendering isn't trivial for someone new to front-end development, but Qwen3 makes it accessible with very few errors. Whether you are building a site for yourself, a client, or as a front end for another AI tool, Qwen helps you bridge the gap between concept and output. The model writes accessible, semantic HTML, efficient JS, and keeps the code easy to extend. And because it doesn't rely on frameworks unless asked, this approach is lean, ideal for students, startups, or even content creators launching AI tools like yours. For our final example, let's talk about something most people overlook: artifacts. These are the structured elements that power modern apps behind the scenes. JSON configs, schemas, mock datasets, API responses, test cases, and more. Whether you are building a mobile app, web service, or AI-driven tool, you almost always need structured data to power prototypes. And that's where Qwen3 shines, because it understands the intent behind your structure. Let's say you are working on a language learning app and you need to define categories, lessons, vocabulary items, quiz logic, and user progression, all before writing a line of backend code. We start with this prompt: generate a JSON schema for a language learning app. Include levels, categories, lessons, vocabulary, and quizzes. The output is structured, expandable, and realistic. You could immediately plug this into a Firebase DB or JSON-based no-code app builder. But let's go further. Add difficulty scores to vocabulary, audio URLs for pronunciation, and multiple choice questions for quizzes. Qwen modifies the schema, now including pronunciation fields, embedded MP3 links, and multiple options per quiz questions. It even nests the correct answer separately for clarity. Next, you want to auto-generate mock data for testing. We can use this prompt: populate a schema with content for 3 beginner lessons using Spanish vocabulary. The result is fully usable. Qwen3 handles the segmentation with clarity. You now have artifacts that can be used in a mock app, shared with developers, or uploaded to a CMS. Now think of how this applies to other domains. For an e-commerce app, generate product catalog, schemas, variant attributes, shipping rules, and etc. For a mental health journal, build mood tracking entries, weekly summaries, and goal check-ins. For a simulation game, create JSONs for characters, stats, world events, and narrative branches. Each time, Qwen delivers clean, human-readable, logically nested data. Qwen3 isn't just good at writing code, it's excellent at generating infrastructure, everything that surrounds and supports an app, especially in early stages. This is especially useful for rapid prototyping, communication across teams, plugging into no-code tools, creating AI-ready datasets, and teaching software architecture. When you use LLMs for artifacts, you are not skipping steps, you are clarifying them, and that's a huge win. So we've seen Qwen3 Coder work across 4 domains: investment, analysis, image generation, web development, and app artifacts. In every case, it wasn't just a shortcut for writing code. It acted like a teammate, interpreting tasks, structuring logic, and delivering working outputs. Now let's talk honestly about Qwen's strengths and limitations. First, strengths. Its open source nature gives you complete control over deployment, customization, and fine-tuning. It writes clean, readable code across multiple languages, especially Python, JavaScript, HTML, and JSON. It maintains a structural awareness. unlike some models that lose context after a few nested conditions. Qwen3 Coder stays consistent in both syntax and semantics. It's fast, adaptable, and able to take iterative feedback, ideal for real workflows. You can run it on consumer-grade GPUs or cloud endpoints, depending on your needs. But it has some limitations. It occasionally overformats code or uses verbose syntax when conciseness would be better. It doesn't perform as well in highly domain-specific code bases, like rare APIs, unless you give it detailed context. Unlike GPT-4 or Claude 3, it doesn't always infer abstract intentions unless guided step by step. Multimodal and vision capabilities are still limited compared to specialized models like Gemini or GPT-4o. But here is the trade-off. You get transparency, freedom, and cost efficiency. If you are an educator, engineer, or creator, someone building tools, prototypes, or learning journeys, Qwen3 Coder gives you real horsepower without the black box limitations of commercial models. Qwen3 Coder. Built by Alibaba and released as part of their open source Quen family, this large language model isn't just another coder in the sea of LLMs. It brings advanced reasoning, multilingual fluency, and impressive performance across real-world programming tasks. Whether you are building apps, working with data, or designing user interfaces, Qwen3 offers something powerful, especially if you know how to prompt it properly. Now you might ask, do we really need another AI coder when we already have GitHub Copilot, GPT-4, Claude, and others? It's a fair question, but Qwen3 stands out because of its open licensing, ability to fine-tune, and its compatibility with a wide range of workflows, particularly those that demand flexibility and transparency. And if you are running it locally or within Alibaba Cloud's ecosystem, you are getting performance that rivals best proprietary tools without the same restrictions. So what's the take-home message? We are entering an era where coding is collaborative, not between two humans, but between humans and language models. The skill isn't in memorizing syntax anymore. It's structuring ideas and communicating intent. Qwen3 Coder gives you the platform to do that across nearly any project. You saw how it helped us compare investment opportunities, build a generative image UI from scratch, develop a full portfolio website using modern design systems, and create robust JSON artifacts for a real-world app. Each of these is not hypothetical. They are the kind of projects people need every day, and they are now accessible with an AI support. My advice? Don't just watch this. Open up Qwen3 yourself. Try one of the examples from today's video. Modify the prompts, break the code, rebuild it, and always you learn faster by doing. And Quen is built to support that process. If you found value here, I invite you to subscribe to the channel for more LLM tutorials. Also leave a comment about which of these projects are you building next. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.